Hey, and live, and this is your Sensei Al Bob. And I first and foremost want to say, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. Welcome home. And remember, anything I say, don't believe. This is strictly for your entertainment and for your enlightening as being the adept that you are. And I am your Griot Sensei Al Bob, here to tell you a story. And here at our channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob, I have more than 700 shows on this channel. So I would suggest you go get a dartboard and throw darts at it. And once you get three numbers, if it's 001, that's the first one I ever did, right? And travel safe, ladies.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
And so I've been watching the world around me. So I sit in this nice little corner, and I wear my nice little USA hat, 45 American. And people, I just love Donald Trump. And then it hooks them. I get them in and have a conversation. And this little neck of the woods are, I don't even want to call them conservative. First of all, there are a lot of tourists. The people who I just wished a happy day. They're from all over the Midwest. You're out of here?
I'm out of here.
Well, you enjoy that sunny day, Richard.
I will. I'll go down to the house for work.
Okay. What you up to down at the house?
I'm just cleaning up, straightening up everything around there. I let go for the past 30 years, 20 years.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing in my little patch. Just going through this stuff. I didn't even know I had this,
Yeah, it shows up.
Yep, it shows it. And it's, where did it go? Right over there.
Yeah.
Just don't know
What
was
you
over
got there?
This is my little YouTube channel with my little guest. This is Richard. This is one of them gentlemen.
Dry Hill.
Yeah, Dry Hill. But it's more Matt. Did you grow up here, Richard?
Yeah.
Yes. And then you went away.
Went away.
And then you came back.
Yeah, like a bad penny.
No, a good penny. You were smart.
Yeah.
You came back at the right time.
Well, I don't know. I've been back 20 years.
Well, this is a good time. I mean, when you were a kid here, when this place was the Garden of Paradise, before Maymead and all that,
It had its goods and bad points when I grew up.
So when you were here, Butler, the real Butler was here.
Yeah.
Not the flooded Butler.
They flooded Butler in 1948.
How much smaller do you think Butler is than Butler that's now from the other Butler?
Oh, it's about right now. You mean from the lake level? It's quite a bit. When the lake's full, it's about 1,100 feet.
No, but not that. But how many people were in the old Butler?
Oh, old Butler.
Right. I mean, the old Butler was more of a town than what Butler now is, like a gas station and a few houses.
Well, they had a couple of gas stations. It was incorporated. It was a pretty good sized little town.
Right.
But it had a lumber industry was the big thing.
Right.
And they had, Whiting's Lumber Company was the biggest one. And they hauled logs out of here for years.
Was that hardwoods or more pine?
Hardwoods? It was hardwood and softwood. They had pine, poplar. Then they had the hardwoods. They had the oak and the beech, the birch. Those, you had a variety of oaks. You had the white oak, red oak, pin oak.
Not much of that anymore.
Well, yeah, they've still got a lot of oak.
Really?
You got a lot you have to harvest. If you don't harvest oak every 40 to 50 years, it's going to start rotting.
Yeah.
But it's a good
It's where I'm over. It used to be farmland, and maybe 30, 40 years ago, it became poplar.
Well, no, it's Butler was covered up a lot.
Well, that's Butler, but I'm talking over, on 321 towards Boone, all those hollows there.
Those forests across through there,
Mm-hmm.
they've been harvesting some of that this past year.
Yeah.
That tornado tore up a lot of it. One guy was in here, he'd been harvesting.
The tornado about 10 years ago, that one?
No, actually, it's about 5.
Who's
Four-
that? Who's
four.
that?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, yes, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about the one that bebopped down
yeah,
67.
yeah. This was just a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Well, got to get out of here.
Get back to that
see you
stuff.
later.
Yeah, get that stuff done. Well, that's Richard. And Richard's better half is Caroline. And she's a great person. And so that's showing you that's the kind of character people who are here, you know. And and they really do represent America, you know, and they're not, you know, a faction or a tribe, you know, they represent America, you know. So Robinson, what you up to, person? So where you from? Some people have been calling you a troll. I haven't noticed you as a troll. You're not John Birmingham in disguise, are you? You going too, Caroline?
Yeah.
Okay. And so tell us about yourself, Robinson, you know? Before I start going off on my daily drive safe, enjoy the day, buddy. So and that's, you know, the people around here are always happy to talk to you, you know. So that's why I sit in the corner here and they come over and talk to me. And you know, I've been here 20 years, so even though I'm wearing this hat, they know that Al's just waiting to talk. I live in Ireland. Oh, which part of Ireland, Richard Robinson? West Coast, East Coast, North, South. See you, sweetie. Oh, dairy. So what's a good dairyman joke? In Ireland, since there are these, how many, 10, 11, how many counties are there in Ireland? But they're all like little countries, and they like tell jokes about each other, like Polish jokes, right? They're supposed to get under your skin. And the English did that. You know, that's English greatest little thing is to get a country to divide itself. And that's what's going on in America. The powers that shouldn't be, the hidden hand is doing its best. You know, one of the beginning motifs of this was in Yugoslavia back in 2014. And that's what watching Yugoslavia kind of go into. And, you know, Russia is not a threat, you know. Again, you know, good old Mr. whatever, Putin, he's a chaw boy for the hidden hand because he's doing exactly what they want him to do. And these guys, you know, Trump, Putin, you know, Erdogan, the guy in the Philippines, the guy in Chile, the guy in any of these countries. There's a great book called Being a Hitman for Wall Street, International Economic Hitman. And, you know, they have been doing this since, you know, Rome and Greece. And and Egypt all did this, and then Samaria and Mesopotamia, and you name it, they've all done it. And in Africa and in South America, before white people even showed up, it's in our DNA. That's why I keep saying, forget about looking for the little green man. Human, Homo sapiens sapien, we are the alien race. You know, we were planted here. You know, they took what was available. Homo erectus. And Homo. The other homos before us homos. Us Homo sapiens, and Homo sapien is the alien race. We have this uncontrollable greed for gold. That's genetically bred into us when we were just digging up the stuff for the Anunnaki. And we have this bloodlust. We this tribal bloodlust. And it's not about, because if people work together, they have a much better life. Their existence lasts way longer than I've been I've been studying human physiology and health since 1969. When I 68, 69, when I got myself into Duke's paranormal experiments with the SEAL Corporation from Stanford, and those guys were looking to build super soldiers for for DARPA. And I had been fooling around with the Theosophical Society, and I was building in New York City, building exotic sensory deprivation tanks. And when I, was just, I kind of hitchhiked. It was like Janis Joplin. Before she hit it big, she left Texas and went to California, and hung out in the California, the San Francisco scene of Haight, Ashbury, and the People's Park. I was there for the People's Park. That was quite interesting. They, a bunch of homeless people, hippies, alternative folks dropping out, found the crappiest part of San Francisco and turned it into a Garden of Eden. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was like better than one of Donald Trump's golf courses. And, what did the city do? What did Ronald Reagan do? Ronald Reagan at the time was governor, and he sent in the National Guard with bulldozers and bulldozed it to the ground. I mean, something way more beautiful than existed anywhere else in San Francisco, and he bulldozed it down because it was free to the people. It's the people's free park. And that's the problem. Anything that kind of comes up, and that's what happened. That's why Erdogan wants to take out the Kurds in northern Syria, because they were able to create a safe zone where people could come, and that it represented everybody, men and women. It was, not just Muslim. It was Christian, Jewish. It was everybody. It was non-sectarian, and the hidden hand got Dude Erdogan to take it all out, because before Dude Erdogan became prime minister of Turkey, Turkey, 20 years ago was it was turning, through the EU and through NATO and through a lot of things, a lot of good things were happening. And the power-hungry powers that shouldn't be, and the hidden hand that has an agenda to wipe out the human race, not the Homo sapiens sapiens per se, but the loving hidden, a loving hand of love's co-creation. So Robinson's the only one saying anything and not saying much. Hi, Bob. Hi, Richard. Live in Ireland. Derry. Come on, Robinson. You got to tell me your best Derry joke. So who do the Derry people make fun of? You can still find leprechauns only when they're drunk. That's not a clan joke. That's like he's gonna make you walk, Caroline. Yep, he was gonna make you walk. How far down the road did you get before you had to turn around and come back, Richard?
I didn't leave. I was sitting out there waiting.
Oh, okay. Oh, those two are so cute. They've been married 78 years. They met, before, during high school. He went up to World War II. Love the shades. And these are my magical shades. I put them on, though. I see other dimensions, but I can kind of read, and not really. Okay. So, we've been talking for 16 minutes, and the subject is love's co-creation. Love's co-creation's tide lifts the boat of all our relations. Right?
Right.
And we only have about 14 months to get the human race to get on that thing. And why sit in this corner? Just because a lot of people are very polarized. And when they see this hat, they come thinking that I am part of their, tribe. And I tell them how much I love Ronald Reagan. Donald Trump, not for anything, but giving the American public a true view of what's going on. Janie Poo, good to see you. Have you gotten my email of sure sending? Right. Yep. People have been sending me, again, I have to thank you, everyone, for sending me gifts at my PayPal at Gmail, and I've gotten them. And it takes me a few days because I'm not always online, but I see them, and then I have to I wish it was, but I have to okay them, and then it goes to my bank, and that takes about a day. But everyone who sent me a gift it has gotten deposited. So if you want to send more, I can use it, especially right about this time of the month, right around the 20th to the 10th of the next month is when my lag in finances come, because I have pretty 581 bucks from my Social Security, and that's about it. And I had to put in a strut in my new car. Now my holler mechanic says, it won't really be bad until your car starts flying. Right now he's just making noise. So I'm saving my pennies to buy a new strut. A new strut costs 200 bucks. And that's outside of my budget. Well, yes, you can send all the rest, pics and artifacts and strange things. Just put it on a link and let me go there, and there it is. And yes, the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail, right? Copper wire was invented by two cavemen fighting over a penny. Now that sounds like a good Irish joke. So, so our lives that we have are these things given to us for us to experience, not to become movie stars or famous or super rich. Those things are just things that happen while you're having a life. They aren't really why you have a life, And when you have children, you take the obligation of saying, okay, I'm giving up my life for my kids, right? And when you can't do that, and you're still selfish and self-absorbed, that's when things go wrong. Comrade, have a little more. Thank you. And 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 being a parent is a great gift because your child is given to you to teach you what it is to be a human being, right? And it isn't to buy a new guitar. Yep, but thanks. Or a new iPhone or stuff. You know, no. It's about sharing your experience. Like why I took care of my parents for the last, I thought it was only going to be a few years. It ended up being 28 years. But, I came back from Ireland in 1980 and my poor city had been destroyed by Ronald Reagan and the oil embargo and a few other things. And, and it was being changed by guys like Donald Trump that were just eating it alive for chump change. And no. See, that's why, Robinson, I don't think you're from Ireland because you're not getting the drift. You're saying all American racist Irish jokes. You're not talking about if you lived in a county, County Clare, County Cork, County whatever. They all have different jokes about the other county, and if you come from Derry, you would have jokes about the other counties, and the other counties would have jokes about you. And so if you were a true person from Ireland, Robinson, and not John Birmingham, you would, be able to give me a good Irish joke and the patio furniture. And that's like straight from, the bourgeois suburbs of, Roanoke. But not really, more like Long Island. So, what's Jamie saying? Answer your last question from the last chat. Yes, I'm planning April, May was held up this year. My family bereavements. Yeah, buddy, I know. I can tell, yes. I had 2008, 9, and 10, about 9 different family and close friends die. It's tough when that happens. Yeah. So I'm right there with you. But I'm always here with you, and I'm always waiting for you to show up. So I can say, welcome home. Okay. Jamie, and you can email me at thedudewake42@gmail. And I will, let's see, try and do it right now. Back to Eden. Good to see you back. And dying is, I've worked in healthcare a lot, and I've been around a lot of dying folk. And Buddha says dying is like slipping out of a tight slipper. It's not that difficult. Living is the hard thing, right? And as we're born, we're an infant. And then we're a baby, and then we're a young child, and then we are a pre-adolescent, adolescent, teenager, young adult, 20-something, around 30, 25 to 30, you become an adult, give or take, or let's legally 21 on is you're an adult. Then, from 38 to 52, you're middle-aged. 52 to 65, you're aging. And after 65, you become a geriatric. And then there's 2 categories. You're old, and then you're an elder. And being old is like all you can do is complain about other people, how things used to be better back in the day, and all you talk about are your hemorrhoids and your illnesses, right? And physical things, like your new shoes and your hairdo and your new car and your new TV and all that great crappy food you got from Food Hub delivered straight to your front door because as an old person, you're too scared to go outside your door. You're too scared to go talk to people. You're too scared. That's when you're old. When you can't interact with the rest of the human race, you're old. You're already dead. You're the walking dead. Now, conversely, once you get past 65 and you become an elder, you do what I do. You talk to everybody. You try to share all your life's experiences and you try to have more. One of the major reasons I lived with John Birmingham wasn't because, it had nothing to do with I had no place to go. I had plenty of places to go. The thing I saw that John needed a friend, so I was there for him, all the videos, you look at all the videos he did in that period, the majority of them, and you take the Ronald McDonald one out, all the ones he did got, 50 or 60 people. The ones we did together where I told the story on his channel, got 20, 30, 40,000 people watching them, And that's why for a year and a half, every time he threw me out, he would then start begging me to come back because his channel, I'm just learning how to look at the demographics of your YouTube channel. And I would not have learned about it unless, John had first secretively put me on his channel and then, made me sign a contract, and all the contracts we signed was I could live there for the rest of my life. Anyway, but that's water under the bridge. And that's another thing an elder does is really doesn't hold a grudge because it's water under the bridge. But I stayed with John because he's my buddy, and he still is. I still care for him. I want him to do the best. But I have not been there for 172 days since June. He threw me out around June 10th or 11th or somewhere around then. I only went back twice. And I didn't spend more than 20, those 2 days. The first time I spent, I got one night out of it, and then he threw me out the next morning. And then the second time I went there, he couldn't even stand me there for 4 hours. He says that it's his father, telling him what to do, but I don't think so. But again, that's neither here nor there. Why I was there was that John needed a friend. John needed a hand, So I was glad to do it. And after the third time he threw me out, I knew that every time he threw me out, I would have an amazing experience. The universe said, okay, oh, look, Al needs a little help. And they would throw me into something wild and crazy, right? Which was loads of fun. So over those, 3 years, I spent maybe 15 months, and so that to me was a synergistic motif of time. And so I said, okay, I'm going to start looking at time in these 15-month blips, right? So I started Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob on May 8th, 2018. So that's been about 15 months from that point to right about now. So we're right in the middle of that window of opportunity that I've been talking about. And now we got about, as of a week from this Friday, we'll have 14 months of the window. And yep. So I was brought up by my grandma, so I have real affection for older folk. And I have always been known as the kid because I was hung out with the younger folk. But now, not so much, right? And I don't know if you guys remember, maybe a little less than a month ago, 4 weeks ago, I was in Roanoke getting my eyes worked on, and my little cough is going. Drink enough hot water with honey, it'll cure anything. And there were these two guys at the library, my friend Robert, and this other guy who's running for president, who's like the smartest man in the universe. He advertised himself. And so I gave him a journal, you know, a really exotic journal, one of my electric spacecraft journals, This is a journal that was made for people who are working on that, and it wasn't something you picked up at the newsstand. You kind of had to be in that community, meaning you had to be either working for Lockheed or Northrop or Grumman or Boeing or DARPA or somebody to be on the mailing list of that book. Well, the sucker is, 1976. So, it's kind of dated. So I don't think it's like giving away top secret stuff when guys like, Stephen Greer and David Wilcox are blabbing that stuff all over the internet. So I gave it to him just to see because he was talking about Tesla this, that. And this was a nice little article on torsion fields and had all the equations, or a lot of them. Meaning, the way I do trigonometry and torsion field equations, it's how Grandpa Stoll taught me, in a, using your empathy, instead of using, your supercomputer. Now, today, everything has to be an algorithm. And I have a really good friend who is, started the school of artificial intelligence learning, right, back in the 80s. And I used to, she would work on her computer on equations, and I would just be thinking about them. And I could come right in the ballpark of her little supercomputer as fast. I would take it, 0.00 that far, and hers would go into infinity, but you don't need it into infinity. And that's what I'm talking about, being the pebble of love's co-creation. You don't need to be an algorithm. What you need to be is a empathetic, loving Homo sapien, right? Because that is we have to change the Homo sapien, and not through, transhumanism and nanotechnology, but through our hearts, right? And not be ready to hit the nuclear button, not be ready to always be angry, we need to be there to be able to put ourselves in the other guy's shoes, to be empathetic, to feel, to realize, okay. We went to a tat shop. That sounds great. So come and get me, banana. So nice. Are you Nick? Nick. NIC is Nick. Nick, we banana, right? Is that what you're saying? That's because if I was writing that, that's what it means. Nick, we banana. Are you in North America? You in the States, or are you in Ireland, or where are you? That's close enough. So, because have any of you guys read my writings on X-Rated or Griot Publishing, right? Basically, I will run all a paragraph worth of sentences together with no spaces, right? No grammatical, no big letters, no just the first letter of the thing is a capital, and the rest are all small, right? And it forces your brain to take both sides and use both sides. It's a little trick I learned. Well, good. You can come and get me, buddy. Well, I'll come to you. You know, North Carolina, my car would make it. I'm not that far from the North Carolina coast. And I have friends in Wilmington. So yeah, so we should get your bus and head down to Florida, go to the Keys. Hit Jekyll Island for Christmas, right? Go down to the Keys for New Year's, and then work our way back up the West Coast, go along into New Orleans, find a place to park the bus in town, and stay there through Mardi Gras, and then keep going into um, Texas, and go up to north. When it starts to get a little warmer, go up to north to New Mexico, and then into Utah and Nevada, California. Go check out and then stop off around September in Seattle or any of those Oregon or Washington places. Right? What do you think? And if you come to the Deep Green, I got a ton of stuff. I have a school bus that's totally maxed out as a I took it on the road in the 80s. I was following my friend the Dharma Bums. Sounds like an adventure. We do. YouTube will be a traveling channel. We get paid for it. Be a revenue stream. Then we in our process of doing that, we develop the traveling video art circus. We'll be the traveling, and we'll put up a web page, and we'll go to colleges and get paid there, because every college that has a student activity fund is desperate to spend every nickel they got, right? So that's a good business plan. So come and get me around. If you get the vehicle and you get it rolling and get it tagged, come and get me on or around Thanksgiving, because it'll still be like this. It doesn't really get cold until after Thanksgiving. I mean, it was cold last night. 31 degrees was pretty cold. And I was stupid enough to wash my one nice sleeping bag. And I thought the dryer did not dry it out enough. Good luck, Robinson. Exactly College, or should I say John Birmingham? Exactly College Towns. Yep. Great for tats too. I like that. I like it. Nice. Ooh, Jamie. Yeah, the three of us. Nice. Bob and Janie. Sounds like the Three Musketeers. Well, I'm just down the road from Boone. My IHOP office is in Boone. So, and I know loads of people in Asheville. Asheville's another place we could, and that's the hipster town. I used to be the king of Asheville. Now I don't have enough money to get from the Deep Green to Asheville and back, within my budget. Hey, Graham. You think he's bona fide? Oh, well, yeah, I'm only, if Robinson's bona fide, then I'm only ribbing him. But if he's really in Ireland, I mean, like I said, The Irish folk used to really, each county have some real intent. I mean, the Irish folk, they use the language in ways that most people don't have a clue about. And Gaelic, if you're Irish, after the 1980s, public schools were reintegrating Gaelic back into the general subject matter. And let's see, 2020. Bud, can you talk about it? But what the election? Is that what you want me to talk about? 2020. I mean, it's pretty much exactly what you're saying right now, right? I mean, you have to realize anything that you see within the construct of the powers that shouldn't be and the soft puppets, it's all scripted, right? Donald Trump didn't win. No, the public was generally pushed to a place where they really got pissed off. Let's say thought Obama was going to help them out, but Obama was no different in a zip than George Bush. I mean, George Bush, Ballybrock, Dublin, Ireland, depopulation 2020. Okay, gotcha. Well, all of this stuff is interconnected. The political stuff, the environmental stuff. They're going on about the Green New Deal. Well, there is no Green New Deal. If you want to have an electric car, that has a bigger carbon footprint, environmental footprint than, a gasoline engine. I mean, the best car to have is like a Prius, one that uses a little bit of gas, a little bit of a battery. And it doesn't have to depend totally on the battery, and that it can be recharged. Now, if you cover that Prius with photocells over the whole skin of the car, which you can do because they now have that material as a paint, and then you put little ducts, at the most advantageous aerodynamic place to have wind come in and turn little turbines. That's how you have a very efficient car. And we designed one of those at, the college I went to. I lost it. My environmental college in New York City, Cooper Union, right? And, I told you that story where we put another alternator on my 8-cylinder, Ford box truck, and I got like half a mile of a gallon of gas, but at 16 cents a gas, it was no big deal. We put another alternator. We took a stainless steel Coca-Cola tank, and that had held pressure, and filled it with water, and put 2 electrodes in it. Had 2 takeoffs that put the tank sideways, so the lightest would go here and the heaviest would go here. So we put hydrogen, oxygen into the carburetor, and my truck went from getting like a quarter mile of a gallon of gasoline to getting almost 200 miles a gallon of gasoline. And that was done in 1966. And it took us all of 6 hours to figure it out. Yes, we were a little stoned, did a little dust and about six packs of beer, but that was 1966, 68. And between 66 and 68, I'm not quite sure. Iron Mountain Report. Yep. And that was, sponsored by, JFK was just as much of a dirtbag, but he started doing a lot of LSD and X, and having sex with Marilyn Monroe, and he realized, I'm going to die soon anyway, because he was really a sick guy. Maybe I should try and do a tack from being a really bad scumbag, trying to do right by the human race, and that's why they shot him. Go read, Jamie, if you're interested in this stuff, go read the 5 speeches he gave before he got shot, in about a 2-month period before he got shot, starting in the end of July. At Harvard, he gave one about hidden societies, another one, all about, the hidden hand and the powers that be, and the sock puppets and the civil. He was moving towards change, right? And he was trying to be the next FDR because when people, oh, FDR, you brought on a New Deal, and he goes, no, all I did was save capitalism, right? And I am hoping that at some point somebody in the hidden hand is going to be, I know that they've got some algorithm watching every show I do, because every time I start to talk about something a little bit interesting, I get thrown off the tube. So, and not demonetized or not just, start losing blah, blah, blah. So Agenda 21, go look up the Georgia Stones, and everything is there, right? Go to Agenda 21 in, the United Nations. Everything is there. And let's see. And the bottom line is everyone can meet everyone they're supposed to meet if they're open to it, if they're not closed, if they're not scared, if they're not putting themselves in a box, if they're not voguing, if they're open-minded, open-hearted, you definitely incredible stories. Best. Programmable bio girl. I need one of those. Right. We all, and that's what being an elder is, teaching to our time. We're all teachers, as long as we're students. And that's what Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al-Bab is about. It's that you're the adepts, I'm your sensei, and sometimes you're teaching me, I'm teaching you, and that's what true knowledge is about. Yeah, pretty much. The Dangor family. That sounds like a social disease. Yeah, I'll have to check that out too. Dangor family. Okay. That's why it's good to have one of these and this at the same time. Dangor family.
All right, family around Bangor.
No. It's a Bangor family. Dangor. Let's see. Dangor family. Bangor family, major role players in WOW magazine. Bangor family, major role players in vehicle industry for many years. Family business group specializing in vehicles. And Zane Dangor says his family transmuted following break-in. What the heck does that mean? Ancient Dangor, South African writer. Let's see. Zane Dangor says his family transmutized following break-in. Dangor says it's suspicious that the South African Social Security Agency experienced a similar. It's been a fashion. Well, obviously, I'm going to have to take a little. It's now on my thing to look up. I'll do my research on that. But if you know what it is, Graham, give us a 411 now. You know. And cream. What is that cream? Sleepy Joe Biden win. Well, no. If Joe Biden is put up there by the powers, just I told somebody earlier today if Bernie Sanders had run against, if Bernie Sanders had won, he would have, just beat, that would have been it because, the American public were just fed up with the same politics, same as it ever was. And Bernie was, he was hot. That was his moment, not now. Now he's a, heart attack victim. One more, he's not going to. Now, the person who would be great to run against Donald would be Tazi Gabbard, the girl from Hawaii, or Congresswoman from Hawaii. She's only been on the stage a couple of times, and every time she cleaned Kamala Harris's clock. She knocked out those 5 putzes who were running as Democrats. She's not even wasting her time on Joe Biden. She went straight at the Democratic Party, the DNC, And Hillary said that she was a snipe for Putin, really. But if Joe Biden goes up against Donald Trump is going to win. And within 6 months of his being his next presidency, he will, choke. He'll be live. He'll be running towards the helicopter with a Big Mac in his mouth, and they will ask him a question. He'll go, they'll fall over, and the media will just form a circle around him, taking pictures of him, going. And then Mike Pence will come out and pick him up in his arms and go, "Oh, Donald," and will try to eat the cheeseburger out of his mouth while swallowing his tongue down his throat. But Donnie will be death by cheeseburger. And Michael, our vice president, Pence, will be our new president. And long live the Hunger Games, We will have and because by that time, whether Donnie wins or loses the next election, we're going to have a TV civil war, because we've had a TV presidency. We're now going to have a TV civil war, and people are everyone in this world is suffering from a form of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Meaning something in their life, they've seen something, felt something, heard something was done to them that stressed them out. Now, that's called life. Back in the day, it was called life. When a saber-toothed tiger was running after, our forefathers, that's pretty stressful. But it would turn around, or they would trip or do something and have that sharpened stick and fall back on their back, and the tiger would go after them. And, they would get a tiger kebab, and everyone would, have meat for the next 6 months. And that guy would get laid a lot, so he would have a lot of progeny, either the lucky stupid or the lucky smart or the lucky agile gene would be passed on, and that's how we got here, along with the Anunnaki playing, their version of, CRISPR, making us, and that's another thing. Somebody in their garage, you're going to be able to buy a CRISPR on now that there's a new version of CRISPR that's better. The old CRISPRs won't cost hundreds of thousands. They'll be sold on eBay, and somebody will be making something in their basement, and it'll turn out to be gray goo that eats everyone, except the most boring, meaning the gray goo will go after anybody who has any kind of pinkness in them, and anybody who is so boring that they're gray that they just kind of blend into the background so the goo doesn't see them, that'll be the only humans left. And I think who's the guy who wrote Cat's Cradle and what's his name? Billy Pilgrim, Slaughterhouse Five. Anyway, he wrote a book. I forgot what it was called. I think it was Cat's Cradle, where they had the handicapper general. Meaning, if you were good looking, they hit you in the face with acid pie, and so everyone would look, body dysmorphic and worry about everything. Everyone would be brought down to the lowest common denominator, and that's kind of what we got. That's no child left behind is every child left behind. And the silver spoon. Let's see. Bigger than the Rothschilds. Well, I knew the Rothschilds were just poster children. So I'll have to check these guys out. Robinson blocks you. Well, that might be a good thing. Don't try so hard, Robinson. Let's see. I thought, but what's wrong? Oh, he's a sacrificial lamb, Jamie. Donnie was put there to be sacrificed. They're going to blame everything on Donald because he's the most incompetent putz there ever freaking was. He always was. I mean, he went through, $1 billion of daddy's money. And the only reason daddy let him do it so his daddy could write it off on the taxes. I can't say I haven't seen anything. Huh. William Butler. No, and it goes like this. As soon as somebody makes money, it goes down. Look at gasoline. Forget gold. Gold is irrelevant. Gasoline, until we go into 0 point energy. Gasoline is something to look at. Right now, when gasoline is below $60 a barrel, that means we're heading towards a depression, right? Now, when they blew up the refinery in Saudi Arabia, and they said, it just knocked out a fifth of the world's oil supply for every day. Well, gasoline prices went through the roof. But then they said, it wasn't so bad. We fixed it in an evening, right? Well, prices never quite came down. And they're still higher. So it almost, was heading towards $75 a barrel. And then the next day said, no, not to worry. So it kind of started eking down. Now it's down in the 50s, and it almost got to the 40s. And when gasoline goes below 50 into 49, the gas at your pump should be 75 cents a gallon, right? Now it's $53 a drum, a barrel, and the price is still at $3 at the pump. So it just goes to show, you just have to look a little closer, and you can see how everything is fugazi, as they say in the Bronx. Fugazi is a polite term. Instead of saying fracking, blah, 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 you say fugazi. Cyan Brothers, and also the whatchamacallit guys. Who are those guys? Well, Dave just died. What are their names? Not corrupt. It starts with a K. And they basically brought on the neocons, and there's a guy who's an economist who got the Nobel Prize in the 50s, um, James Buchanan. Go look. He's an economist. Nobel, right? Go look up his economic theories, like off the hook. Go read David Icke. Go read Joseph P. Farrell. Go read Catherine Austin Fitts. Go read the guy who coined the phrase breakaway civilization. I mean, go read the guys who've died. Our Texas friend who wrote the book the movie JFK was based on. I mean, there's so much stuff out there. It really is, and it's all on the internet. And you don't even have to buy the books. You can read most of that stuff just live online. On Wikipedia, it's pretty much there. Now, it's not going to be there for very much longer. That's for sure. They're putting all this stuff up there just to confuse everyone. I mean, best way to confuse folks is to give them more information than they can process. Now, I've been trained by the best to take in a lot of stuff and get rid of the chaff and just go for the hard kernels. Yeah, actually, Tesla, perfected and developed 0-point energy in his Colorado experiments, and then brought him back to Long Island and built Wardenclyffe, which was an industrial-sized unit to run the friggin' planet on wireless electricity and give wireless digital information immediately anywhere on the planet using ELF in 1889. You got that? Gravitational, flying saucers. 1889. They were fooling around within the 1840s in California. The Nazis went to California in the 1840s because it had the resources there, and it was a nice day, and nobody was there yet. I mean, that was just like I said. It was like the little science project that my fellows at Cooper Union and the stuff we did at Cooper Union between 68 and 70 was, if we had just, we were saying, hey, look at this thing called the compact fluorescent. Look at these things called diodes. Now, diodes have been around for a long, they're the cousins of transistors. And there was a Japanese guy and a guy in New England who invented light-emitting diodes, And they hung around for a good 20, 30 years before, look at what we could do with this. Now, guys like me would say, hey, we can do this, And I, thinking that I was at the UN at an NGO called the Alternative Technology, and we were tasked, our mission statement was to find simple, affordable technology to change the world. And we did, we realized that plastic liter soda bottles in Africa, if you put water in them and put them, and strain the gook out of it and just had as clean water as you could put in that bottle and put it out in the sunlight, the UV would kill all the germs. And then after 2 days, we take that bottle and have another one of those liter bottles with a funnel and some, screening material and pour that water in there and take out whatever stuff. And we actually made a funnel with a coal kind of filter, what a Brita filter is what we had. But ours was a third world version of stuff you could find off the ground. And we did that, and we sent little boxes of these off to Africa through UNICEF. Remember when you gave your pennies to UNICEF? And we sent, hundreds of thousands of these, and it knocked down waterborne disease by 90%. And then 2 years later, what happened? That all the manufacturers of those soda bottles in Africa, they put a material into those bottles to knock out the UV, so it wouldn't work. And, I've seen 60 years of this kind of stuff go on. And that's why, 20 years ago, now more, I decided to say, screw it. I'm gonna take my little skill set. People have always offered, and I slowly and slowly went from, being the artist mystic, social activist, to that, and scholar in universities, and then scholar in university that does demographic and study work for groups, and then took that into more focused kind of working for the corporate world, to then working for the desperate lawyers and getting paid, those desperate lawyer salaries. But instead of doing it for a year and making millions, I worked 11 weeks, and made what most people made in 2 years. And then I'd have a great time. I'd stay at, fancy hotels, and because these guys would be so happy, they would put me up for a month in a hotel, plus pay me a lot of money. Right? And I can't complain. Those 10 years were awful good to me. I met a lot of great people, helped a lot of people along the way, did a lot of art. But, I was just, having a hedonist life. I wasn't doing it to change the world anymore. I was just doing it to have a good time and to be nice to people, because when I'm nice to people, people are nice to me. So, let's see. We're at it 1 hour, 6 minutes. It's pushing towards 4. I want to get home before it starts to get dark. So another 20 minutes. So what are we saying here? Lecture with small device. Yes. 20s. Yes. We know that man. Ooh, so many. Salutates now. Thanks, bud. Okay. Death from above the Starship Troopers. Yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. That's what happened to the World Trade Center. That was taken down by a space-based. It was taken down by a lot of things. The Israelis put in small nuclear devices, and at engineering cross points. Go read what engineers and architects for 9/11 truth have, right? And then go read the 9/11. The 9/11 report put out by our federal government. First, the Cheney Bush administration didn't want to have anything, right? But the people who lost family were so irate, they wanted to know something. So they were lied to, just like the JFK, right? Thing, the magic bullet. And the people they used as their scientific bedrock was popular mechanics, who said, yeah, if the floors were dead, they just keep going down one. That whole building fell faster than gravity. Something pushed it down. And each one of the floors were stressed. So when one floor would push against it, that stress would hold it, meaning, amount of time would have to take to, it's not like boom, 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 boom. And so there's so many holes in that. And, if you even talk about it, you're considered, ooh, shouldn't talk about that. But, and that's why the guys who, David Icke's new book is a really good one. And 9/11, just like JFK's assassination, is one of those pins in the map of time. So is 9/11, right? And we're heading for a red cap event in the next 15 months. That will be on the same level. But it'll be different. And I think it'll be more like Jamie says, spacemen coming, Because they already got them out there. There's this thing called solar water. Go read, David Wilcox. He's the best on all of that. On all of the guys out there already fooling around. And Stephen Greer, who I know because he was a ER surgeon when I lived in, Asheville, North Carolina in the 90s, and there weren't too many folks putzing around in that bailiwick. He and I and a few others were the only few. And Asheville was anything within a 600-mile radius of Oak Ridge has very strange things going on. People talk about all the underground stuff in Area 51. Well, the whole friggin' Blue Ridge Mountains are one big, gigantic underground, deep underground military base. You know, and that's where Asheville is, right? Right. It's the French Ford River, and there's this thing called Patton Avenue Bridge, and there's the next little bridge going over, and between it was where Otter had his heaven on earth that got bulldozed into the river. But you take that little bridge over and then go up the hill and go to where the school book depository is, and right next to it is a very strange building that all of the electricity from the TVA goes straight into. A big, gigantic, and that's why Asheville, most cities are wired like a tennis racket. So if one section goes out, it can be fed from another direction. In Asheville, all the electricity goes in one direction, straight to this building, and then out the other end, and it keeps going. And so whenever it has a power failure, the whole city goes out, not just this neck of the woods and that neck of the woods, unless they've changed it, which would have been a good idea. Because when we had that big snowstorm in 90 whatever, the whole city went out, and then it got really cold, and that, 40 inches of snow became one big cinder block of ice for about 5 weeks, and no one could get around. It was unbelievable. Let's see. Death from above. Yep, that's the next red flag. How much time, teacher? I would say I keep giving the time. 14 months window of opportunity to change this. Where we are the pebble. Forget about marching and. Look. People are marching up a storm right now, right? Look at in China, in their city there, and in Beirut, in Baghdad, in Egypt, and you name it. And what good has it done? Except kill thousands of people. No. The way to change is each individual treat each other with love's co-creation. Each individual be that pebble. Today I've had 5 conversations because I had to go through town and night shores. And I met people who chewed tobacco, and they also on my head, hey, I love your hat, man. Blah, blah, blah. And we start talking. And I start talking about what it really is, just like I talk to you guys. And every single one of those people said, you're right, man. I'm going to have to start reading books. And I give them my little card. I give them my little Dreamy Dreamland card. And I'll watch your channel, man. And they do. And they don't go on this. They don't go on the chat, but they do go. Lots of people watch this show. Dudes from Orbit. Yep. Tesitech. Yeah, there was a physicist teacher, Jane or Judy or somebody who she pegged it, that the buildings, because the buildings just turned to dust, because after the first building got hit, everyone in the camera pointed at World Trade Center, right? And so there must have been 1,000 cameras pointed at those buildings when they were coming down. And there was a lot of footage out there, and it has been taken down off the web, a good deal of it. It has been sanitized, but there was a lot of it showing that whole parts of the building just turned into dust as it fell. When they had the big faraway things, and all you saw were these fountains of dust, not like chunks falling off, but dust. That was an energy weapon from space. Boop, boop, boop. There's a tech. Go back to towers like rubber gloves back there. I bet Judy was the one. Yep. Clear as a nose on my face. Yep, right there. Well, keep going there, Graham, because I'm going to go back and look at the live chat of this and go research everything you're hitting up here, which is right on. Fish, did you hit the wrong button? Why is your message restricted? I didn't restrict it. Yeah, same as the California fire. Go read that stopthecrime.org. That lady is off the hook too. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to depopulate California, so only the rich can live there, right? Not the semi-rich, not people who can afford a $20 million house. No, the uber rich, and they're funneling everyone into areas so when the big one comes, they'll all be dead. Whereas if they're like stretched out across California, most of them will survive. So, and I used to be a lineman. I used to work in that business when I was a young man, when I was a cowboy, when I was out there in the Southwest. And I used to wire, see the big metal towers with the transmission lines, and they go into these things called distribution centers, right? That have big transformers, and it brings it down so we can take it over to a town or a business or this or that, right? And that was in the early 70s, 72, 3. And they had things, those signals, they were sending digital signals over them, meaning information from one controlling device to the other, not through some wire, but through the high tension signal, And that was my little thing, to be able to put that equipment on the big transformers and tune them so you could discern between the information and the power. And that's what Tesla was doing, but he was going to do it without wires, because those big wires, like you see on the big towers, those wires are not carrying the current. Those wires are what are known as waveguides. They are taking the frequency, right? And so if you go up next to one of those towers with a big fluorescent tube, it'll light up, I had a friend who lived in New Jersey under one of those towers, and I made him antennas to maximize picking up the current, and he ran his whole friggin' house on that. Of course, he, was baking himself from the inside out. That's kind of what smart meters do these days. Yeah. The Numo tribe go back 20, 30,000 years. Easy. And there are other folks. How did the Aborigines get to Australia? They've been there a long time. Yes. The Brown Mountain. Yep. Anything along the Blue Ridge Mountains, because look, DC is there. They've been digging holes there since World War I, at least, if not the Civil War. Well, kind of, maybe. I mean, the real reason is because they are what are known as, or used to be, a rainforest. So it rained all the time. Rain. Then sun comes out, and that water would go up as mist, right? And so rain, sunny, mist. Rain, sunny, mist. I mean, go to Brazil. When I was in Brazil, the rainforest, they were the same thing. You'd fly in and you'd see these columns of mist going up. But you are right, there are exhaust things all over the place. I was up near Peaks of Otter, near Lynchburg, North Carolina, where 551 or 581 kind of goes across. It's a county road, not an interstate, from Lynchburg over 281. And it goes up through, I forget what they call it, but anyway, it's up near the Peaks of Otter. And there's a big base up there. And my dogs and I used to love to go up there and have lunch at the Peaks of Otter, and they have all these great little paths to go hiking. And I would have my little knapsack and my little hammock in the back, and we'd find a nice spot. I'd, tie my hammock up and read a book and let the dogs bounce around the forest all they wanted, running after this and that. And I'm like, reading away an hour or two, and I never had to worry about my dogs. All I had to do is whistle, they'd be right back. How far away they were, they'd be right back. So and they never bothered me. And if they ever said anything, they ever, ooh, I knew something was really wrong. So they were in trouble. So I'm on my hammock, and I just ooh, and I run to, and she keeps it up, and I run to her, and she's like right stuck at this place, and she had really long hair. She looked like a little black bear, and her hair is moving sideways, and she's not moving, but she's like, ugh. And I kind of get over to her, and she looks at me like, "Don't get any closer." And I find a big stick, and I kind of move the stick past her, and it gets sucked to a rock, right? And so I throw a handful of dirt stuck to the rock, and it goes through. You can hear it kind of go through a jingle jangle of a vent. So it's a vent sucking a ton of air underground, but they have some. I mean, if that was really sucking that much air, it would be making the sound of a storm, a hurricane. But I had some kind of way to disguise the sound of that, right? So, I had her big long leash, and I made a lasso, got it around her neck, and just didn't like strangle her, but just gave her enough oomph to get herself away from the tug of that air. And once I got her away, she took off. She went straight back to the car, like not even waiting for me to ask her what was wrong. And I was like, looking at it, I threw some more handfuls of dirt and said, okay, I'm not coming back this way. So, yeah, the things, and I've found at least four other of those kind of things, very strange things. Like when I was up at Floyd, I was the electrician for Floyd Fest, first 5 years, wired it to start off. And because my buddy, he was licensed, he didn't want to do it. So he goes, oh, these are your type of people. Go up there and help them out. So I did. And it was great. First 5 years of Floyd Fest was way fun. And then it became a corporate thing, and 40,000 people showed up. But when the first year they only had 600, it was great. Next year, when I had about 2,000, it was great. Third year, about 4,000 was great. Next year, five, because, the first 4 months, we went up there, set up camp, and had a great old time setting everything up. It was like a rainbow gathering. And then once the gathering started, all of the vendors, the people who set it up were there before them, and we would facilitate them having the best sites, right? So they would take care of us with food and little trinkets. And the first 2 years, hardly anybody showed up. So I put up a tent as a mystic healer and had people come in, and I'd read their everything and change their aura and their chakras, and they'd be feeling like better than they'd ever felt before. And so they gave me drums and whistles and rattles and T-shirts and you name it. So first 5 years were loads of fun like that, but then it just got down strictly to money, and just too many people. I went, the fifth year I didn't go. I was doing something else, and the fourth year wasn't that much fun. Meaning there was too many people, and they had Chris and his wife no longer really wanted to organize it, so they got a committee of all these Floydites that were trustafarians, meaning Daddy paid all their bills, so they were like, "Ooh, we're in charge." And so I went back a sixth year, and a few of the people who were from the beginning were still there, like Bob the Builder, and Cynthia, she designed the whole look of that place. Is this lady who has a bakery shop in Floyd. She's a visual artist. Why it looks the way it looks is her. And anyway, they were the only two left of everybody else. And they didn't have any more of the old time volunteers, and it wasn't the party that it was for the first 3 months, because we pretty much, all you had to do was walk on site and do it. It was no longer having to make it happen. So so that committee took, anyway, so I showed up a sixth year, I think. And I strolled on, and the guys at the gate, Bob the Builder was still in charge of security. So he gave me one of the vendor's passes so I could park wherever I wanted to. And I walked in, and I went over to my buddy who had, from the very beginning, had a nice big chunk of space, that he had a website that people would come, and he would, do everything for them. Have a tent for them, have everything. They had to walk in, and he would have a kitchen there and make them meals. Didn't have to buy anything, and he had a deal with Chris on the ticket price. So anyway, I threw my tent and my pack down on the spot, gave him a hug and strolled around the site. And I had this roll-up table, I put out the table, put my little turban on, and put my little sign outside, reader advisor. And this person came over and said, well, you can't do that. I said, why not? He goes, well, you're not certified. And I said, wait a minute. I said, well, you have to be part of our organization here where we're all certified psychics. I said, oh, really? Who certified you? We did. Oh, okay. So I went and found Bob the Builder. I said, what's up with these? And they said, oh, yeah, they usurped your mystic abilities. And I said, well, how can they certify themselves? And they said, well, they pay Chris $20,000 to do it. And that's what Floyd Fest kind of turned into. I don't know what it is now. That was a good 15 years ago. God knows what it is now. But let's see. Jamie says at least 1,500 downs worldwide. Some like cities up to 5 million. Yep. Over near Ithaca, right in the Finger Lakes, right. There's a lake there. And Cargill Mining has a salt mill there, and it's had it there since the 1850s, right? And I was working for this guy named Gus Bear, a big electric, right? And he did all the big stuff, hospitals, firehouses, factories, transformers. And I bumped into him, and he said, "Oh my God," because he had 3 sons who were total morons who screwed it up every time. So he hired me to go do those kind of big jobs and to keep an eye on them and make sure they didn't screw things up. And he paid me off the books because his one of his son's daughters was the bookkeeper. And if she saw what he was paying me, he'd get very upset because it was like 6 times what he was paying his boys because they were morons. And what he paid me was, at the height of when he paid me, when I was working there 40 hours a week, he was paying me about $2,500 a week. I was making him like 50 grand a week. We were working on these big projects that were, multi-million-dollar projects. And if you screw anything up along the way, it can cost you millions. So, he was getting, but I liked him because Gus was amazing because during the 50s when he was about 10 years older than me, he grew up and was, fell in love with electric guitar, went out there and left, the family business when he was, 17, went on the road and became a really famous guitarist. And he played with the Rolling Stones. He played with the Beatles. He played, in the backup band of the Beatles. And I played at, the Met Stadium thing. He traveled the world. He played with everyone. He had pictures with everyone, right? And he could play everything, jazz, blues, rock, you name it, he could do it. And he had about 40 super duper amazing guitars that were owned by really, Chad, what's his name, and John Lennon, you name it. Those guys gave him a guitar that was theirs and signed their name to it, like worth a fortune. And his family, his kids, and his wife thought it was junk. But because he was making good money, Daddy's paying us a lot of money, so we'll let Daddy have this little man cave, which was in his basement. And it was like 1950s soda fountain. Everything was black and white. He was a Mason, and he had his own little, little grow room, and I would go down there every Thursday and Friday evening, and we would drink dark liquor and smoke. And he'd play guitar, and I would sing poorly, and we would just have the grand old time. And so he put me on. I got this really big job, and he, cannot be screwed up. And they actually found out that you were working for me and asked for you to work on this project. I said, really? That was like, And so I go there, and it's a salt mine. And it's been going on for at least 100 or 150 years. And so they have dug from the Finger Lakes of New York all the way to Ohio, right? And they're bringing down enough, 980 lines up the kazoo, right? Enough electricity for 5 or 6 million people, right? So we doing everything on top, right? And the guys are putting the pipes and the wires down in the ground, and my the engineer who I'm working with, he goes, at some point you're going to have to go down there and tune the transformers down there. And I said, I don't like it. I don't like going underground. I've had bad experience. No, we know that you've had some bad experience with underground work, so don't worry about it. And so, yeah, as the day gets closer, I keep telling my boss, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. My boss goes, listen, all you got to do is go down there for 2 days. I'll pay you $10,000 a day. It's kind of hard to say no to $10,000 a day. It's okay, because I love you, I'll go down. And I went down there. And what they had down there was a city. Because, salt is like it's like concrete. It's like it was smooth all the way around. It was white, and they had photonic lighting, so everything lit up without shadows. It had, lakes and gardens and parks and high-rise buildings and monorails and went down there. This guy met me. He took me on a little wireless floating car, and we went over to where I spent 2 days, and I spent 2 days down there. I didn't come back because it took a while to go from up there to down there. And that was the more annoying part of the whole experience, was the elevator ride. And I said, you must have faster ways of doing this. And they said, yes, but you aren't, this is like, I was like, I was taking like the service elevator. I wasn't meant to take the rich people elevator, So I stayed in a nice little bungalow and did my thing in 2 days and came back up. So there's one that's, from I forget which finger, like Togo? No, that's here. I forget the name. There's 5 Finger Lakes. There's Seneca, Onondaga, Iroquois. They're named after the tribes. And Seneca Lake is where women's suffrage started. It's also where the biggest, you never hear about this, but there was a women's encampment because there was an Air Force base there. And they were taking the Pershing II missiles from their producers and bringing it to that Air Force base on a train, and then putting them on airplanes and flying them to their bases. And these girls camped right on the railroad tracks, and they wouldn't move, And so what happened was Donald Rumsfeld showed up when he was the Secretary of Defense under Reagan, and George H. And he got on the train, and I don't know if he was at the controls, but he ran over the girls, killed 6 of them. About 12 of them lost their legs. He ran over them. I mean, the train's right off their heads. Right? Didn't hear about that. Go look that one up. So let's see. An hour 33. Where you guys at? People need your life story. I got it on it's on, X-rated, I got photos of it too, guys, I've shown you the pictures. I got lots more. I found a whole 3 or 4, chests, thousands of photos. Oh, I thought I lost these, And, I'm sure John will go through all my stuff and find whatever I got there and say it's his and start publishing that way. So, it'll get out some way. But, I'm Amazon, you Amazon, Facebook. Oh, Facebook, that Zuckerberg, all those guys are just poster boys, And I know I can feel, the tension within the corporate world. Why were they so desperate to put Donald Trump in power? They want to rebrand. They're desperate to rebrand. That's what the new Green Deal is. It's rebranding. And, it's going to be worse than what we got now. And what a life. And we all, we all have a life to live like that. Right? We just have to do it. Good to see you, Alan. Fish, Twitch, Jamie, Graham. I'm always there for everyone. When you need me, I am there. I was talking to a friend of mine. He was waiting for, he's one of my desperate lawyer friends, and he was waiting for someone to come into his office, and they didn't, and I could sense that. Otherwise, he's usually so busy that, you know. So I just strolled in to see if he was around, and he was just waiting for somebody. I said, "What are you doing here? Usually you're so busy." And he said, "Well, I'm waiting for a big ticket item." And I said, "Okay." So he buzzed me through security and sat in his office, and we just talked about stuff. And the guy never friggin' showed up. Never. He said he calls up a couple of numbers. "Where are you?" "Oh, well, I just, And and the lawyer said, "Well, you could have called me and told me that, you know, you weren't coming." "Well, I'll come." And so we were talking about that. Why people don't show up. What's the story on that? Wait 1 second. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. I need to get one more cup of hot water. Ooh. Mm. And I'm sounding better. Mm. Yeah, honey. I got the honey. Uh, uh, yeah, but who would want to live in an underground city? Meaning, I went and saw one, and it was 900 feet at least underground. And man, if something started to rock and roll, you were going to be a squished, ant. And everything underneath the light, the air was artificial, was manufactured. You could taste it. And, no matter how many Starbucks I have down there, why do I have so little views? Well, you guys need to start spreading the word around. Tell your friend, "Hey, you got to watch this guy on Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei El Bob." But I would say, if you go look at, I have a lot of views per se. When I look on my algorithmical thing, I have I don't know, 340, subscribers. You cadre. But about 40, 50,000 people have watched this stuff. So the only reason why people aren't watching is because the powers that shouldn't be have, somewhat curtail it from going until, about 10 months ago, they offered me, if we can own you, we'll make you a star. And I said, I don't think so, not quite yet. So that's when they said, "Oh, well, you can't do it on your phone anymore. You got a laptop, and you can't do this, and you can't do that, and watch out, blah 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 blah." And so so it's a joke when Zuckerberg goes, "Oh, I can't really tell people not to put stuff on Facebook." That would be no. He is being told by his handlers. Mark Zuckerberg didn't invent anything. He is just the face of Facebook. That's it. He is a total putz. Another total putz is that the Tesla guy. So I'm having an interview, and they go, "So do you like Tesla?" So I like Edison better because Tesla was about doing technology to free humanity. Edison was all about making money for himself. That's me. That's what Moron Boy said, whatever his name is. I mean, he only did because his engineers, they're using, a Tesla um, alternating current synchronous motor. So it kind of makes sense to call the car a Tesla, but the whole 90%, what makes it do what it does is that it's a Tesla motor. And all of those guys, even, Mr. Apple, no, none of these guys made this shit. They took it all off the shelf. It was all given to them. This whole smartphone thing is what is known as uh, observational finance, meaning they're watching everything you do and turning every transaction, every question, everything into a commodity, right? And the only way you can change that is from your heart out. Why these videos are the way they are is that I prepare myself shamanically, and I go from my heart out to you. It's not about me per se. Yeah, I tell you stories about this or that, but it's for me to share that experience with you so you can go, wow, I feel that. That's why, Jamie's saying, this guy's telling stories that, he's the teacher because you're feeling what I'm, giving you. Like what do I say at the very beginning? Don't believe anything I say, You don't have to believe. You can feel. Okay, how are we doing here? Let's see. Can't understand my. They make up the five fingers. Yep, rivers. He was talking about lakes, actually, the Finger Lakes. Uh, uh, yeah, that's another thing. In essence, I am somewhat being protected. And, I'm being allowed to do this. You guys got to realize I'm being allowed to do this, you know, because the hidden hand and the powers that shouldn't be in the sock puppets are desperate to rebrand, are desperate to find just a little way to turn the story so they can stay in power. I couldn't care less who's in power. I mean, I know nothing exists except love's co-creation. Love is the only thing that's true. And if you go read my stuff at xratted.blogspot.com, you'll see it. And go look at the story, moral majority, um, family values, Black Widow hot pants, right? Which is on my blogs, my Griot Publishing. And it was so, it's a 400-page novel. I got to stick 120 pages up, and I had to stick it up in the cloud. So if you go to XR-Rated or Griot Publishing, you'll go to Griot Publishing, and there'll be a link to that. And I'd love it if you guys would read it because those 100. So I've written 500 pages, and right now I am like the process of writing. You kind of I go into what are known as jags. If you read my cuts, they're jags. They're just I had this passion, and I wrote this thing down, and bingo. Then I'd edit it a little bit and stick it up there. Now the novel I'm writing now, and they are those cuts are taste treats for novels, which I've written, right? And now I'm putting my first full-length novel up there, but it won't let me stick the whole thing, so I had to put up 110. Now I'm figuring out how to put the whole. I'll probably edit it down to something 400 pages or less, hopefully, depending if I put in a grand directory. But anyway, that's why I'm not on the Facebook. I don't even think about going on Facebook. Yep, that's exactly true. See you, Twitchy. We love you. Talk to you later. Hope all is well. And I'm going to go in a little soon too. And we're right now, hour 44, 45 minutes, an hour at 50 minutes and 50 seconds. I won't. And Jamie, everyone who wants to talk, get a hold of me at the dude awake 42 at Gmail. Now, they have, you know, when I go to my Gmail account, 99% of the stuff is stuff from YouTube saying, oh, do you want to do this? Do you want to change your YouTube? Do you want to blah, 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 blah. And I try to have my guru help me weed that stuff out, but no matter how much he slices and dices it out, or try and puts, people getting a hold of me personally, it's difficult. Yeah, so they make it difficult for me. I'm protected. I'm allowed to do this, but they love from double. Love you, Bam. Stay well. So, hot water and honey. Later, guys. See you, Jamie. Be happy. No worries. Yep, exactement. So, I think that was a good chat. I'm going to leave about now so I can get home before it gets dark. Okay? Thank you, guys. I love you all. Stay well, be good. Remember, drop me a little present if you wish at the dude awake 42 at Gmail on my PayPal account. A number of you have done so far, so it does work. And I really appreciate it. It's helped me out, I still have to get $200 over my budget so I can fix the strut of my car. And that's about it. Go look at my writing. I've got some feedback in the place in my writing where you can do that. And I'll catch you guys later. Love you, Alan. You stay well. See you, Fish, Graham, Jamie, Twitchy, all the above. Love you guys. There we go.